All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Just a moment, we're going to hook up with David Brody of CBNnews.com. He's the chief political correspondent for the Christian Broadcasting Network here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We will talk with him, and let's say hello to David Brody. Hey, David, how are you, sir?
Good, Steve. How are you, sir?
Good. It's been a long time. I don't think we've had you on this show, unless I'm mistaken. So welcome aboard, and I hope to have you back. Of course, Mr. Brody is. You can read him at the Brody File on the Christian Broadcast Network, CBN.com, and you can read him at the Brody File on the Christian Broadcast Network, CBN.com, and that is the priests and the Obama administration denying mass to Catholics. Here's an administration that, in my view, has launched a war on religion, and specifically a war on Catholics and Christians in particular with regard to Obamacare, birth control, the whole thing. But this really takes the cake.
Well, there's no doubt about it, Steve. And, memo to the Obama administration, don't tick off Catholics. I mean, come on. Steve, look, this goes across party lines to a degree. I mean, we're not just talking about those conservative or those pesky conservative evangelicals. Now you're talking about mainstream Catholics, mainstream potentially Democrats, Republicans. I mean, this goes across all party lines. And now you're going, in essence, Steve, you're ratcheting this up another level. You're now getting into dangerous territory if you're the Obama administration, because you're not necessarily saying, forget about them. They're part of the Republican base. Well, hold on. This could be part of your base as well. As a matter of fact, it is part of your base. And so this is why this is politically disastrous for the Obama administration.
Well, okay, so let's talk about what happened. I believe it was at the Naval Submarine Base in Kings Bay, Georgia, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Father Ray Leonard basically serves there. But, the government was shut down, so we can't go celebrate Mass. At least he couldn't go celebrate Mass a weekend or so ago. And so he gets there. Now he decides to have a personal get-together, if you will, with folks that want to do that outside of the what do you call it, the government grounds there. But indeed, what can you say here, Steve? I mean, he is not allowed to go in. As a matter of fact, the sign said, shut down, no Catholic service till further notice. I mean, the optics on this for the Obama administration have been outright atrocious.
No, absolutely. And I am convinced, without a doubt, that they have selectively, throughout this whole shutdown, tried to go for causing as much pain as possible. But it's been a public relations disaster, because look what we found out at the World War II Memorial. We found out that was always an open space. They actually paid people to come and put barricades up. And everything you look at that they've done by choice. And now to do something like this, and I don't believe that this was an isolated incident. I think there were other incidents of its kind. I mean, to say, what are they trying to do? Say it's Republicans' fault? People know better than that, and know that Republicans wouldn't deny people a Catholic Mass.
Right. Well, this might be a classic case of overplaying their hand. They believe that they are winning politically on this. They look at the polls, they read Gallup, and they say, hey, we're winning. Well, hold on. They may be technically winning in the short term, but when you start to close down World War II memorials, and when you start to close down parts of Mount Vernon or Mount Rushmore and things that are sacred and important to people, and then of course Catholics can't celebrate Mass in certain places. At some point, it becomes a case of diminishing returns. I mean, how far do you go to prove a point? And I think that's the problem with what's going on with the Obama administration. They're kind of sitting pretty with Cheshire Cat smile, but when you start to pick and choose some of this stuff, it can really come back to bite you.
Yeah.
Cat smile, but when you start to pick and choose some of this stuff, it can really come back to bite you.
Yeah. Steve Malzberg Show. Let me talk to you about something else that, I try to talk to every appropriate guest about this, and I think I've done a pretty good job in keeping this alive and booking guests specifically for it, and that is the killing of and the persecution of many minorities around the Middle East in particular, but particularly Christians in the Middle Eastern countries, the Coptic Christians in Egypt and in different parts of Africa. This is something that's been ongoing. It doesn't stop. It's widespread. We're talking about everything from bombing churches and schools to forcing, at the threat of a sword, Christians to convert. I mean, and it goes on while the United States government says nothing.
Right. They don't say anything. And, it's going to be interesting. A couple observations here. Right. They don't say anything. And, it's going to be interesting. A couple observations here on this, Steve. First of all, Rand Paul and Marco Rubio, especially Rand Paul, have been extremely outspoken on this issue with the 2016 presidential race. Both are going to make an overt attempt, and principally overt attempt, if you will, to evangelicals and a broader religious audience to say this needs to stop.
Well, Paul just did it the other day, and when we're done with your interview, I'm going to play a bunch of sound bites for the folks because Paul was right on target.
He was, and as a matter of fact, we spent 2 days with him down in Kentucky, and he wanted to talk about this subject ad nauseum. And I don't say that in a negative way; I say that in a positive way. I mean, he really felt like this was getting not getting the attention it deserved. And also, and here we go. I'm going to mention two words here. Here we go, or a name. Hillary Clinton. I guarantee you, Steve, that when 2016 comes around, she's going to make this, I'm not going to call it a centerpiece, she won't make it a centerpiece, but she is going to give this, especially with her Secretary of State street cred, she's going to give this attention as well, and I think she's going to try to dilute some of that and tap into an evangelical and Catholic audience by talking about it.
Well, the problem for her, of course, is that she's never said anything about it, or maybe in passing somewhere that I don't even know about. But this was going on while she was Secretary of State. It's escalated now, especially with what's taken place in Egypt. But she had remained silent now. And I hope whoever the Republican nominee is, they have the guts to say, "Where were you while all this was going on?"
No, you're absolutely right. I think that's a good point, and she would be called on the carpet on that. Having said that, I know from advisors close to her that, believe it or not, she believes this is an important issue. But once again, if she does believe this is an important issue, as Jerry Maguire says, show me the money. I mean, where were you during your time?
Well, actually, you see, I just happened to watch that movie again the other night, and it's not Jerry Maguire who says "show me the money." It's
right.
It's his client, the football receiver, who says "show me the money," whose name escapes me right now.
Well, all right. Cuba Gooding Jr.
That's right. Yeah, he played by him. Absolutely. Listen, any plans that you know of for any kind of, boy, would I love to see and be a part of. I'd be privileged to be a part of anything on Washington, any march, I've spoken to so quote unquote Christian leaders or people of faith on this show and elsewhere, and I just had Billy Graham's grandson, who's a pastor himself, and asked him about this. Why not some massive march on Washington to defend Christians around the world? I mean, I think that would be huge. I think the turnout would be huge, but who and how to organize that?
It's difficult, and when I say it's difficult, it's not so much difficult to get the principal players there. The difficulty is getting lots of media attention for it. Look, they'll go cover the Million Man March.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, my gosh, NBC's Brian Williams will do 7 minutes at the top of NBC Nightly News with that. But good luck trying to get this covered in the mainstream media. Now, having said that, look, the principal players will be there. Ted Cruz was just there at the White House praying. I don't know if you saw this picture. We posted this, but praying with Reverend Patrick Mahoney and Reverend Rob Shank, some of these guys in the faith and action community in Washington, D.C., praying for the Coptic Christians, praying for the Christian persecution that's going on all around this country. He was praying for the Coptic Christians, praying for the Christian persecution that's going on all around this country. If
there's enough people, Dave, I think they'd have no choice. But anything, if a spark ever ignites, let me know, and we'll help perpetuate it into a fire.
Fair enough.
All right, take care, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll speak to you again. David Brody, CBN News chief political correspondent, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, folks, you want to weigh in? And if you do or don't, either way, we're going to also play you some Rand Paul from the other day talking about this very issue. And I think it's going to have to be, it should be addressed now. It should have been addressed yesterday. This show addresses it almost every day to one extent or another. Because for crying out loud, it's the right thing to do. It's absolutely the right thing to do. And the media, I'm sorry to say that the media would only care if it were the other way around. If there was a small group of Christians somewhere in the Middle East that killed one Muslim family in the name of God, well, that would be the end. That would be front page. That would be headline. That would be day after day after day after day. Christian radicals, Christian extremists, Christian. But you got it going on every day the other way around. And a media that doesn't care. They just don't care. That's all. That's the only way you could say it. Do you see it in the media every day? Do you hear it at all? No, they don't care. And I don't know. I would think every religion could unite against this and have a mass, huge, the biggest rally ever at the mall in Washington. But not yet. All right, 877 Newsmax. That's the new number right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.